Hi guys, it's LR here from l.r.media on Instagram, and today I just want to talk to you about AI in photography and some of these AI features that are becoming more and more prevalent in our photo editing softwares. Now, let's go over some of the pros first. For me, one of the pros is speed. That is one of the main reasons I've gone back to using Lightroom, because of the speed with which I can process images using the AI mask features in Lightroom. For me, this has been a game changer. It really speeds up my workflow and makes retouching skin 90% of the time a one-click or two, or maybe 2 or 3 click operation. So instead of spending maybe 20-30 minutes retouching someone's skin, or up to 20 or 30 minutes retouching someone's skin, this has really become a very quick 1 or 2 minute task at the most. And this has been great for me personally. I found it has made me really enjoy processing files more than I have in the past, and it's sort of brought some of the joy back to me for photography, because now I don't have to shoot and then come back to the computer and sort of groan because I know I'm going to have to spend so much time on each image fixing skin problems. Number two is the advent of AI denoising in programs such as Topaz. Lightroom now has their own, which I use all the time, and DxO. Now, I think this is one of the most significant developments in photo processing in a long time. For me personally, someone that's been shooting digital photography for over 15 years, ISO and noise has always been a consideration, and I know that in the last 5 years or so there's been great advances in sensor technology, but still when you're pushing that ISO you are going to get noise. And for me, the ability to quickly remove that noise with very little impact on image quality, as long as you're careful and don't overdo it, I think that's great. For me personally, I only ever use a setting of between 40 and 50 on Lightroom's AI denoise function, and I always find that that's enough for me to get rid of the noise in 90% of images. Okay, and for me, I don't really worry anymore about if I need to push the ISO. I push it. I keep it as low as I can. I try not to go over 3200, but shooting 3200 with the cameras I have, which is the EOS R and the R7, I haven't had any significant problems removing noise if it is there. Okay, so AI denoise is great, and I've really come to enjoy that. Now, one of the new features that's been introduced in Lightroom in only the last week or so has been the AI blur function. Now, this is only in sort of a beta form at the moment, but if you've had a chance to play around with it, you'll know that this is similar to the sort of thing that you get in an iPhone in the sort of the portrait mode, where it I think it uses 2 of the cameras and it does a bit of a depth map, and it blurs out the background for you using computational photography basically. This is interesting, and I think they can definitely improve upon it. Like I said, it is sort of only in a beta form at the moment, but it does show promise in some situations. I think of it more as a separation tool rather than a blur tool. I use it where I already have blur and separation between a foreground subject and a background. I just maybe want to enhance it. It doesn't seem to do as well with figuring out the foreground blur, but there are features and tools in there where you can refine it if that's what you want to do. But for me myself, I'm trying to make my post-processing as quick and effortless and easy as possible. And I try to stick to Lightroom unless I absolutely need to go into Photoshop, and I try to stick to quick editing, so maybe 1 or 2 minutes a photo and then moving on. Okay, so some other things, I think content aware heal is great. I think that will also get better as AI generative fill improves. In terms of AI generative fill in Photoshop, it's interesting. It can definitely be a good or a bad thing, and it's sort of hit and miss at the moment. Anyone who's played around with it knows that sometimes you'll put an input in and it'll just block it for no reason. Like I think at one point I was saying, I wanted a plain pink background, and it was like, you can't do that. It's prohibited or blocked. And I'm like, really? So it's sort of a bit of trial and error with generative fill, and it's also low resolution. So it's one of those things where it's a tool, and it will develop and change over time, but is definitely interesting and exciting, and will definitely change the way people process their images. Okay, so now for some of the downsides, what do I see as could be issues or problems? I think for features like generative fill, it just in a way devalues a lot of photography. Now I know people have been able to Photoshop things for many years now. Okay, it's the ease with which you can manipulate things and change things. Okay, you no longer have to be well versed in Photoshop to be able to significantly alter images with relative ease. And I think that's where there's a risk of AI in photography devaluing photography, and people just not believing or not being able to know whether they can believe whether an image is quote unquote real or fake. Okay, now it could be argued that most images these days that are digitally processed or manipulated are quote unquote fake, and the only way to really have a real image is to maybe just shoot JPEG, or really limit yourself to maybe only cropping and exposure correction and white balance correction. But where does it start and where does it end? And who knows? It's a personal judgment call. Okay, and I can see how already when I'm looking at Instagram, I see a great photo, and if I saw something that looked unrealistic before, I would think, oh well, maybe it's been photoshopped. But then I could at least think, well, at least there's skill and effort that's gone into that. Whereas now, I look at some photos and I'm like, I just don't know whether I should be impressed by them or not anymore, because I'm not sure whether they're real or not. And that might just be a perception that's not real. I mean, who knows? This is the problem, is that nobody knows. When you see an image, you can only judge it by the image itself. You don't know what was really there, what's been put in, what's been taken out. And for me, myself, I'm more worried about what's been put in than what's been taken out. I'm okay with cropping and removing distracting things, or even maybe AI generating things out to remove something from a scene, but even that is questionable. Okay, and so this does raise this point. Okay, so what are your thoughts? Do you like these tools? Do you use these tools? How long have you been shooting? Please leave it in the comments. I'd be interested to find out how people that have been shooting for a bit longer, like myself, find the introduction of these tools as compared to some people who have maybe been shooting maybe only for a couple of years, or have just started out in photography, and what their take on these new tools is. So please leave a comment below. Like if you like this video, subscribe, and